Have you ever sat alone in your living room and wondered, why do I feel more disconnected now than ever before? Not because you've moved, not because of bad blood, but slowly, quietly, it feels like people have just stopped reaching out. The phone rings less, visits become rare. Even your own grandchildren seem distant, caught up in their own worlds. If that's hit close to home, you are not alone. Meet Evelyn Harris, a 73-year-old retired schoolteacher from Ohio. She was once the heart of her family gatherings, the one everyone turned to for advice, for comfort, for stories about the good old days. But over time, Evelyn noticed something was changing. Her children texted instead of calling. Friends stopped inviting her out. Neighbors waved but didn't stop to chat anymore. At first, she thought, maybe it's just the way things go when you get older. But deep down, she felt something wasn't right. What Evelyn didn't realize was that she had slowly picked up a few hidden habits, the kind that sneak in over time and quietly push people away. Habits that made others feel unheard, unwanted, or even uncomfortable. And here's the scary part. She didn't even know she was doing it. This video isn't about judgment. It's about awareness. Because the truth is, these little habits, these quiet, unnoticed behaviors, can drain our joy, harm our health, and erode the very relationships we cherish most. And they're far more common than most people think. Today, we're going to walk through Evelyn's journey, how her life slowly changed without her realizing it, and how, with a few small but powerful shifts, she got her spark back. She rebuilt her connections. She laughed again. And most importantly, she found herself again. We'll uncover 9 common traps that many people fall into as they age, often without meaning to. Traps that leave you feeling isolated, frustrated, or just plain tired of trying. But there's hope, because each habit we talk about today comes with a simple, realistic solution. Something you can do, starting now, to take your life back. Why should you stay until the end? Because habit number 7 is the one that catches almost everyone off guard. It might be the reason why even kind-hearted, well-meaning people feel increasingly lonely, even when they're surrounded by loved ones. So if you've ever felt like something is slipping away, like you're not quite as connected, not quite as seen as you used to be, this video is for you. Let's begin with Evelyn's story, and let's take the first step toward not just aging, but aging with connection, joy, and dignity. 1. When negativity becomes the new normal, and you don't even notice it. Evelyn didn't always used to feel this way. She had once been the cheerful one, the person people came to when they needed a smile or a steady hand. But somewhere along the way, things shifted. It wasn't loud or obvious, just a quiet change that snuck in over the years. It started with small sighs in the morning, a comment here and there about the aches in her back or how the world seemed to be falling apart. Back in my day, she'd say, almost without thinking, followed by a gentle complaint about manners, music, or the way young people dressed. She thought she was just being honest, but little by little, something began to change around her. Her sons started shortening their phone calls. Her neighbor, who used to stop by with muffins, now just waved from the driveway. And her teenage granddaughter, who once spent entire afternoons telling her about school, started making excuses to leave early. It hurt, but Evelyn didn't understand why. After all, she was just expressing how she felt, right? What she didn't see was that her words, however well-meaning, were landing like tiny weights on the shoulders of the people she loved. Negativity has a way of doing that. It makes others feel heavy, pulled down, drained. And while she thought she was just venting, others began to feel like being around her meant carrying a burden. Not one of them ever said it out loud, but their absence spoke volumes. That's when Evelyn realized, if the energy I give off pushes people away, maybe I can shift it and bring them back. And that's where her healing began. 2. When you stop looking in the mirror and slowly stop seeing yourself. Evelyn used to love getting ready in the morning. Even during her busy years as a teacher, she'd always start her day with care, brushing her hair just right, picking out a pair of earrings that made her smile, and dabbing on a hint of her favorite rose-scented perfume. She wasn't dressing to impress anyone. She dressed for herself. It made her feel alive, in control, and ready to face the world. But over time, she stopped. At first, it was subtle. She skipped a few hair appointments thinking, what's the point? She started staying in the same oversized sweatshirt all day because it was comfortable. Makeup gathered dust. Her closet, once full of color, stayed closed. I'm not going anywhere, she'd tell herself. Who cares what I look like? But something inside her began to shift. She started feeling smaller, less seen, less her. She didn't realize how much her outer care had once reflected her inner light, and others noticed too. People didn't stop and compliment her anymore. Even her old friend Nancy, who used to say, "You always look so lovely," began to hesitate before inviting her out. Evelyn didn't blame them. She barely recognized herself. It wasn't about vanity, it was about self-respect. When we stop showing up for ourselves, the world reflects that back. And more importantly, we start to believe we're no longer worth the effort. But Evelyn realized something powerful. Getting dressed isn't about age. It's about dignity. It's about saying, I still matter. And the day she put on her favorite blue blouse again, something in her lifted. She saw herself again, and that changed everything. I don't need that. When refusing to change leaves you behind. Evelyn had always taken pride in knowing who she was and what she liked. She made her coffee the same way every morning, watched the same news channel, wrote reminders on sticky notes instead of using apps. Her world made sense, and she didn't see a reason to change what worked. So when her daughter suggested joining the family group chat, Evelyn scoffed. If you want to talk to me, she said, just pick up the phone. But fewer phone calls came. Birthday photos of her great-grandkids were posted in that group chat, photos she never saw. Plans for Sunday brunch were shared online, plans she only heard about afterward. Slowly, quietly, Evelyn found herself out of the loop, not because her family stopped caring, but because she refused to step into their world. She hadn't realized it, but her resistance to change was building a wall between her and the people she loved. It wasn't just about technology, it was about connection. Being stubborn can feel like strength, like you're staying true to yourself. But sometimes that stubbornness becomes a silent form of isolation. One day, Evelyn's granddaughter came over and offered gently, "Grandma, can I show you how to text just once?" Evelyn hesitated, then nodded. That small yes opened a door. Suddenly she was getting messages, photos, little check-ins that made her smile. She was back in the fold, not because she changed who she was, but because she chose to stay open. Saying, I'll try doesn't mean giving in, it means staying connected. And in this fast-moving world, that choice can make all the difference between being remembered and being left behind. For when just in case turns into never again, and the clutter begins to take over. Evelyn always said her home was her sanctuary. Every corner held a memory, an old photo, a birthday card from years ago, a scarf her late husband once gave her just because. But over time, those meaningful mementos turned into something else. Stacks of unopened mail piled on the kitchen table. Boxes of clothes she hadn't worn in decades filled the spare room. Drawers overflowed with the expired coupons, broken cords, and things she might need someday. She told herself she was just sentimental. But one afternoon, while trying to find a vase for flowers a friend had brought over, Evelyn realized she couldn't even find the shelf. Her sanctuary had become a maze. It wasn't just about space, it was about energy. The clutter made it harder to think clearly, to breathe deeply, to feel peace, and worse, it kept people out. She stopped inviting neighbors over for coffee. She avoided hosting family dinners. She was embarrassed. Let's just meet at your place, she'd say again and again. But what she didn't see was how her clutter had become a barrier, not just to her living room, but to her relationships. Clutter doesn't just take up physical space. It fills our minds, our hearts, our calendars. It says, hold on to the past while life quietly passes us by. Evelyn didn't need to throw everything away. She just needed to start letting go with kindness and a little courage. One shelf, one drawer, one memory at a time. And as she did, something shifted. Her home began to breathe again. And so did she. 5. When impatience becomes a reflex and hurts more than you know. Evelyn had always seen herself as a kind woman, thoughtful, understanding, a good listener. But lately, something had changed. She found herself snapping more often at the grocery store clerk who moved too slowly, at the neighbor's grandkids for being too noisy, even at her daughter for talking too fast on the phone. It was never meant to be cruel, just quick comments, a sharp tone, a sigh too loud. But the faces around her started to shift. The cashier's hands fumbled with a receipt. Her daughter fell quiet mid-sentence. The neighbor waved from farther away than before. Evelyn didn't realize what was happening. She was just tired, frustrated. The world felt faster, louder, less familiar. And sometimes she just wanted things to slow down. But impatience has a way of creeping in like that. It doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. It leaks into conversations, making them tense. It drains warmth from simple interactions. And worst of all, it leaves behind regret. Evelyn remembered the look in that young cashier's eyes, how they dropped when she snapped, "Can you speed this up?" He was just doing his best. And in that moment, something inside her softened. She realized that being quick to frustration wasn't making her feel more in control. It was making her feel more alone. So the next time she felt that heat rising, she paused, took a breath, reminded herself everyone's doing their best, even when it's slow, messy, or different than how I'd do it. That shift, just a few seconds of patience, changed everything. Kindness doesn't cost time, but it buys connection. 6. When you speak from the heart but forget to leave room for theirs. Evelyn had always been a storyteller. She had a lifetime of memories, lessons learned, hardships overcome, moments of beauty she wanted to pass down. And when she talked, her eyes lit up. She loved to share. But one Sunday afternoon, while chatting with her daughter on the phone, something shifted. "I love hearing your stories, Mom," her daughter said gently. "But sometimes, I just need someone to listen." Evelyn froze. She hadn't realized that during their last few calls, she had done most of the talking, jumping from story to story, giving advice, filling every silence. She thought she was connecting, but what her daughter needed was something else entirely: to be heard. That night, Evelyn replayed their conversations in her mind. She realized she had been so eager to give love, to offer wisdom, that she had forgotten the greatest gift of all: presence, because being heard, truly heard, is one of the deepest forms of love. Sometimes, especially as we get older, we fear being forgotten. So we speak more, share more, wanting to leave something behind. But in doing so, we can unintentionally overshadow the voices of those we love most. Evelyn made a quiet promise. The next time they talked, she would listen more than she spoke. And when she did, everything changed. Her daughter opened up about work, about life, about things Evelyn had never heard before. The conversation flowed, not because Evelyn said the perfect words, but because she made space for someone else to speak theirs. Because the best conversations are the ones where we don't just share, but connect. 7. I've got it. The illusion of independence that slowly pushes people away. Evelyn prided herself on being self-sufficient. She had raised 3 children, managed a household, and handled every crisis life threw at her. Asking for help, that was never her style. Even now, in her 70s, she still insisted on carrying her own groceries, fixing leaky faucets, and shoveling the walkway after a snowstorm because she could, right? But one afternoon, something changed. She was struggling with a heavy bag of cat litter in the parking lot. Her hands trembled, her back ached. But when a kind young man approached and offered, "Ma'am, would you like a hand?" Evelyn smiled politely and said, "No, thank you, I've got it." She didn't. That night, as she sat in her quiet kitchen nursing her sore back, Evelyn felt something deeper than physical pain. She felt invisible, not because no one cared, but because she had pushed them away. What she once thought of as strength was becoming a wall. By refusing help, Evelyn wasn't proving her independence. She was slowly disconnecting from the people around her, people who wanted to love her, support her, and feel useful in her life. She realized letting someone help you isn't a burden, it's a bond. So the next time the neighbor offered to carry her trash can up the driveway, Evelyn smiled and said, "Thank you, that would be lovely." It was just a few steps up the hill, but something in her heart softened. She felt seen, cared for, and surprisingly, freer than ever before. Because real strength doesn't come from doing everything alone. It comes from knowing when to let someone in. 8. Saving for someday, but forgetting to live today. Evelyn had always been careful with money. She clipped coupons, avoided restaurant meals, and saved every extra dollar just in case. Over the years, she had built a small but solid nest egg. Her bills were paid, her needs were met, yet every time someone invited her to do something fun, like take a short trip, try a painting class, or go out for Sunday brunch, her answer was always the same. "Maybe next time, I need to be smart with money." But next time rarely came. One afternoon, her best friend Linda called and said, "Evelyn, I'm going to the coast this weekend. Just 2 nights, ocean view, fresh air. Come with me." My treat. Evelyn's first instinct was to say no. Spending money, even someone else's, made her anxious. What if she needed it later? What if there was an emergency? But that night, sitting alone in her quiet living room, she looked around. She had everything she needed. But when was the last time she felt truly alive? She realized something that hit her deep in the chest. She had spent her whole life saving for one day and forgotten to live for today. Being financially the responsible that is wise. But life isn't meant to be only safe. It's meant to be savored. So Evelyn said yes. They watched the sun rise over the water, laughed until their sides ached, and shared stories beneath the stars. And for the first time in a long while, Evelyn felt free. She hadn't lost anything by saying yes to joy. She had gained everything. Because in the end, it's not the dollars in the bank we remember. It's the moments that made our hearts feel full. 9. Back in my day, when preaching builds walls instead of bridges. Evelyn adored her grandson, Caleb. He used to come over every Saturday, sprawling on the living room floor with his comic books, telling her all about the latest video games or his science projects at school. She didn't always understand what he was talking about, but she loved listening. Lately, though, things had changed. Caleb visited less. When he did come by, he stayed glued to his phone. Their conversations felt awkward, short. And when he brought up a new app or music artist he liked, Evelyn would sigh and say, "Kids these days just don't know how to live anymore. Back in my day, we actually played outside." She meant it lightheartedly, a little chuckle, just an opinion. But Caleb's smile would fade. He'd go quiet, and before long, he'd excuse himself and head home early. That night, Evelyn sat alone with her tea and a heavy heart. She didn't mean to push him away. She loved him more than anything. But slowly, she began to understand her words, those well-intentioned comparisons, weren't building connection. They were building distance. Every generation has its own rhythm, its own challenges, its own kind of brilliance. And when we talk down to the younger ones, even accidentally, we make them feel like their experiences don't matter. What Caleb needed wasn't a history lesson. He needed to be seen. So the next time he brought up something she didn't understand, Evelyn paused and said, "That sounds interesting. Tell me more." And just like that, the door reopened. He lit up. He explained. And for the first time in a while, they laughed like they used to, not because Evelyn knew everything, but because she was willing to learn from him too. Connection doesn't come from having all the answers. Sometimes it begins with just listening with an open heart. 10. Holding on to grudges and regrets and losing your peace in the process. Evelyn had a drawer in her bedroom where she kept old letters. Some were filled with love, others with pain. There was one in particular, a torn envelope from years ago, never opened, never thrown away. It reminded her of a friendship that ended in silence, words left unsaid, a misunderstanding that turned into distance, and over time, into bitterness. She told herself she had moved on. But every time she opened that drawer, a quiet ache returned. And it wasn't just that one friendship. There were regrets too, things she wished she had said, paths she didn't take, apologies she never gave or received. At night when the house was still, those memories came back louder. And Evelyn realized something most people don't say out loud. The hardest weight to carry isn't age. It's what we refuse to let go of. Bitterness doesn't protect us. It poisons us. It sneaks into our smiles. It hardens our hearts. And worst of all, it builds a wall between who we are and who we could still become. But Evelyn wanted peace, real peace, the kind that lets you breathe deeply, sleep soundly, and smile for no reason at all. So one evening she sat down at the table, took out that letter, and read it. Then she lit a candle, held the paper over the flame, and let it burn, slowly, carefully, like releasing something sacred. She didn't need revenge. She didn't need closure from the other person. She just needed permission to stop carrying it. And as the ashes curled and floated away, something inside her softened, lighter, clearer, more open. Because forgiveness isn't weakness. It's freedom. Ignoring the whispers of your body until it starts to scream. For months, Evelyn had been feeling off, just a little more tired than usual, a bit dizzy when she stood up too fast, and every so often her chest felt tight, not painful exactly, just uncomfortable. She brushed it off. "I'm just getting older," she'd mutter. "Probably didn't drink enough water today." She skipped her annual checkup twice. She didn't want to sit in another waiting room, didn't want to hear anything scary. Besides, she looked fine, didn't she? Then one morning while watering her front porch plants, Evelyn felt the world tilt. Her knees buckled. The next thing she remembered was waking up in a hospital bed, an IV in her arm, a heart monitor beeping softly beside her. The doctor gently explained she had been showing signs of high blood pressure and early heart strain for months. If she had come in sooner, things might have been caught earlier, managed better, avoided entirely. Evelyn closed her eyes. She thought about the warnings she'd ignored, the tiredness, the lightheadedness, the little voice that whispered, "Something's not right." She hadn't listened, and now her body had spoken the only way it knew how. Too many of us believe that ignoring a problem will make it go away, but our bodies don't nag, they signal, and those signals, if left unheard, can turn into sirens. Evelyn made herself a quiet promise that night. Never again. She started small. Morning walks, more water, less salt, regular checkups, even when she felt fine. And she discovered something powerful. Not fear, but control. Not anxiety, but confidence. Because taking care of your health isn't about being afraid of getting old. It's about choosing to live fully for as long as you can. And that starts with listening before it's too late. If any part of Evelyn's story reminded you of yourself or someone you love, know this: it's never too late to change. Even small steps can bring back light, laughter, and connection into your life. If you believe in second chances, in healing, and in choosing joy at any age, comment the word hope below. Let it be your quiet declaration that you're still growing, still learning, and still choosing life. As we grow older, life doesn't always get quieter. It simply asks us to listen more closely to the ache that's more than just a sore knee, to the silence that hints at distance, not peace, to the habits we carry, believing they protect us, when really they may be pushing others away. Evelyn's journey is not just her own, it's a mirror, because the truth is, aging isn't about becoming less. It's about becoming more intentional with our words, our choices, and the way we show up for ourselves and the people we love. You are not too old to grow, not too far gone to reconnect, not too late to start living differently. You still matter. Your voice still matters. And the small shifts you choose today could open doors to laughter, healing, and closeness tomorrow. So if something in this video touched your heart, hold on to it, let it sit with you, and ask yourself, which habit am I ready to let go of? And what kind of life am I ready to reclaim? Because growing older is not the end of the story. It's a powerful, beautiful chapter. If we're brave enough to write it with love, with intention, and with hope. If this video spoke to you, even just a little, please take a moment to let us know. Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you believe in the power of small changes and lifelong growth, type the word hope to remind yourself and others that it's never too late to start again. Give this video a like if you found it meaningful. Share it with someone you care about. They might need these words more than you know. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss another gentle reminder to take care of yourself, body, and soul. Thank you for spending this time with us. Take care and keep choosing hope.